All right, welcome back to the show. It's me and Hugh and Sandra's here, and we're joined now by Shahmeen Sadiq. 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 Okay.
Sadiq.
Anyway, great to have you here, Shahmeen.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
Now we're talking about Anjali leadership. Is that what it is?
Anjali leadership.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what is that exactly?
Well, it's a company that I founded a few years ago here in Toronto, and the focus is on leadership training, leadership development consulting, and executive coaching. The word Anjali actually means, it's a Sanskrit word, and it means heartfelt offering. And for me, after 15 years of work in the corporate world, this was my heartfelt offering to step into something quite a bit different from what I had done in the past.
So how was this different?
Well, I worked actually in the Ontario Public Service, and I was constantly disappointed and frustrated that nothing that we ever embarked on ever seemed to come to fruition. And the disappointment...
It's okay, it's only tax dollars.
Yeah, I have a strong opinion about this. There are a lot of ways that we could be doing better with those dollars, but I didn't know how. I didn't know what.
From within the system.
From within the system. Yeah. So I was fortunate enough to have an executive coach at the time who was someone I had met, and she and I had a conversation together, and she said, you know, this might be the kind of work that you want to do. And at first I thought, no, I can't. You know, it's not. I'm on this other career path. But as time went on, life began to show me signals and indications that something needed to be different, that the old ways of operating were not going to work anymore. And that
how did you feel? How did those signs come about? How did you know something had to change?
Well, first thing was the birth of my first son, who's now 10 years old.
Okay.
So when he was 12 months old, I went back to work. And one day I was coming home. Oh, and by this time I had attained the level of senior manager. So I was driving home, trying to get to the daycare to pick him up, and I was having this anxiety attack because I was going to be late. And then that night, I was in a hurry to feed him and put him to bed because I had 100 emails that I hadn't answered that day. And it was at that point that I said, something's got to be different. There's no joy. What is the point? And I want to do things that make a difference. I want to do something that makes a contribution to making someone else's life better, but not like this, not at the expense of my own son and my own health. And health problems began to show up as time went on. So those were some of the signals.
Wow. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow, good for you for taking the initiative to do that. I think a lot of people are doing that.
Well, a lot of people, you hear a lot about people that are in this kind of business, this helping business. Now you're helping people who came from the corporate sector and who, similar story, they just got so sick of it that it was affecting their health, affecting their family.
Sometimes, and sometimes I work with people while they're still, most of the time actually, I work with people while they're still in that world. And here's the thing, I wished I knew what I know now back then, because it really could have made a difference. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about how I help people. So most of my clients are corporate leadership teams, and in the past few years, most of my work has actually been in the United States. I've noticed a Canadian theme in your guests today, and I want to underline that I'm now beginning to realize we really need this work here at home. And thinking about government spending, thinking about some of the political things that are going on right now, the robocalls and the Drummond Report have really brought to my attention that my offering needs to take hold here. There's a real need for what I have to offer.
Well, it's interesting because you live in Toronto.
I do,
right?
Yeah. I've been traveling all over the U.S. for the last 2 years.
Now, what is it about those Americans that they always seem to be more receptive to a good idea, whereas Canadians tend to say, no, we'll just keep doing things the old way. It's worked for us before. We don't need any new ideas.
Yeah, I do think that the Americans are a little more assertive on that front. But I'm noticing a shift here now. I'm noticing that there is more interest, and I think that a lot of the media that we read these days is pointing to a need for greater leadership. The problem is we don't really know how to build it. So what we've done in the past is we've sent managers and leaders to trainings where they learn a lot of how to. Here are the 10 things you can do to be a better communicator. Here's the top 5 things that will derail your career. Here's what you should do to be a better delegator. The problem is we haven't looked inside at these leaders' inner operating systems to say what kind of a foundation do they need inside that will actually help some of this stuff that they're learning stick. So most of you and many of the viewers of this program have been to a leadership training or some kind of a conference where you have this epiphany and you just think, wow, my whole life is going to be different because of what I heard today. And 2 weeks later, you're back to the old way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So my training is not meant to be like that. The intention is to get inside a leader's inner operating system and begin to strengthen that, so that all those great things that they learned can actually be sustained. These new behaviors that they want to take on can be sustained.
So how do you do that then? Do you work with them after you do like a workshop and then you work with them afterwards? Do you work one-on-one? Do you work in groups? How does that?
It's a combination of all of the above.
Okay,
Yeah, so
okay.
with each client we design something that's uniquely meant to meet their needs. But in my ideal world, I would work with a leadership team as a team, and I would work with each of the individuals as individuals.
Now, do you do that? How long is this process? Is it over a weekend? Do you stay with them after a while? How does that?
What I've learned is that these new behaviors and this upgrade to their inner operating system that I help them with takes a lot of time.
Yes.
It's not something that can be done in one sitting. So when people ask me to come and do let's do a 3-day workshop, Shahmeen, I say, well, that would be great, except there's no follow-up or no opportunity for these leaders to sustain what they've learned, then I'm not really that interested, because it feels like a bit of a letdown. And I don't want to be like that training that we just talked about.
Yes.
So what I do instead is I work, what I'm doing right now is working with teams in shorter segments. So for half a day a month, let's say. We come together, we learn about our leadership together, we address certain challenges that they're facing in the workplace, and then they sit with what they've learned, what they've agreed to take on and try, and then next month I come back and we check in, how's that going, and what needs to be different now.
So it's kind of like homework.
Yes, yeah, it's a generative process that unfolds over time. And it's really about coming into a deeper conversation with each other about the things that really matter.
These are the management teams that you're working with, right?
Leadership teams, yeah.
That might be a scary situation, because every corporation, every organization has its own corporate culture, and I can see for some teams that might be easy or easier, and then for others it's like you really have to move them a long way.
Yes.
Do you find that?
I do, and I think that there's a lot of shame that people feel about not being able to perform well and not being able to create the results that they want to create. And so the question is, can they say, yes, okay, we're feeling ashamed and we'd like to do something about it. And if they can do that, then I can work with them. If they're still defending themselves against that feeling of shame that they don't want to feel, then it's not going to be so easy.
You know, I was going to ask you because, I mean, you're a person who was in the corporate culture, who followed your heart, your intuition, and you took yourself out of it.
Yes.
When you're dealing with these management teams, if they're not, maybe they're still stuck in that corporate culture. Not that there's anything wrong with that per se, right? But if they are presenting this kind of, the face that they have to present to that corporate world, that could be a very difficult obstacle for you to help them overcome.
I think one of the things that I do differently, or I do really well, is help to create a sense of safe space so that people can actually begin to lower that defense that they have against actually looking inside.
So it sounds to me like you bring a bit of a spiritual element
There definitely
to this.
is.
And it's almost like we don't want to talk about it because I know we're in the corporate world and you kind of don't want to talk about things like that. But it sounds to me like you're trying to bring that to it in a way that is, I guess, non-threatening to that mindset.
Right, and the way that I do that is I really focus on what I call our gifts. What I believe is that people have gifts. All of us humans come with some gift. The question is, are we using this gift to keep ourselves away from a feeling that we don't want, or are we using this gift to move ourselves towards something that really matters to us? And this is the premise of my work. There are three primary gifts.
Okay.
There's the gift of heart, which you seem to have. There's the gift of intellect, which
I'm a
would be
hugger, right?
more of yours.
I can go with that.
Yeah. And there's the gift of will. So these are these three gifts that most people present with one or two or three of these gifts. Now, for me, my primary gift was the gift of heart. And so when I was using that rather ineffectively in my old life, I would want to keep things on an even keel. I didn't want any conflict, and so I was really nice, easy to get along with, agreeable, but I never said what I wanted. I never talked about what mattered to me. And I had some great ideas that the organization might have used really well to further their cause, but I never brought them up. So when I'm working with people who have that gift of heart, I'm encouraging them to grow up. I call it growing up gifts. Grow that gift up into more authentic relationship, as opposed to the cheap harmony of going along to get along.
Now, how about the gift of intellect,
That
or the
one-
gift of will?
Yes, I'll talk about both of them. The gift of intellect is that you're very smart. You know things, you can see patterns, you can see how things are going to unfold, and you can predict. The less effective way of using that gift is to point out how everybody else is wrong. So to be highly distant, critical, and arrogant is the sort of immature or younger way of using that gift. And it works really well up to a point. But we're in a time when the world is much more complex. And in order for us to make our way forward and thrive, we're
Yep.
going to need to come together in different ways. So when that gift of intellect grows up, it becomes the gift of collaboration, authenticity, and courage.
So you have to grow up, Hugh.
I'm writing those down. Collaboration
Authenticity,
and
courage, and compassion. So instead of pointing out how everybody else is wrong, that leader, I invite them into a different way of operating where they say, okay, how have we created this problem together? And how will we find a solution together? How am I part of the very thing that I criticize? That's a much more useful way of using that gift than to just sit back and point out how everybody else has failed.
And how about will?
Will is a great one, and a lot of people in our North American culture can relate to this because it's about getting things done, making things happen. So you all know someone who has at some point in their lives wrestled something to the finish line all by themselves, thinking that the only way to get this done right is
Yeah.
to do it myself.
Yeah.
We have a lot of leaders like that in our organizations right now. The problem with that is, while it's a beautiful gift, it leaves a trail of dead bodies in their wake. It disempowers their employees.
Yes.
And it burns out the person who's wrestling everything to the
Yes.
finish line themselves. So what I invite leaders into is a growing up of that gift of will, so that they can actually begin to speak with great passion and clarity about what really matters to them. What is their purpose and what is their vision? What is the vision that they want? It could be in their personal life, but my work is mostly in the corporate context. So what is the outcome that we're trying to create here together? The thing that matters so much that we do anything to bring it into being. And when they can begin to speak like that, they can enroll people who work with them into that vision and then begin to create it together. But it requires giving up that belief that I'm separate and I'm alone and I'm not really supported by anybody else. The truth is, in most organizations, there are groups of people just dying to pitch in, just dying to be involved.
If just given
in
a chance.
If just given a chance.
Shahmeen, where did you get these things, these three gifts? It seems like a framework for your whole business.
Yeah.
Did you invent that, or?
No, I didn't, but there's some technology that I use to assess leadership. And in that technology, this framework is at its foundation. So it's termed slightly differently using that technology, but this is how I've begun to make sense of it and begun
you're
to talk
making it
about
unique
it.
for you.
Yes, and that is why I think what I have to offer is unique, because of this focus. Now, this work is very it requires, as I said earlier, a deeper conversation. So it's intimate work, it's vulnerable work, and not everybody is up for it, but what I'm noticing is that more and more people are interested in looking in these places because they know that the old ways just won't work now. Something different is required, and
Really?
this is the way.
It's like working, earlier we had Glenn on, and it was like the film festival with a conscience. This is almost like working with a conscience.
Yeah, but why do you think it is? Do you really? do we really, like, where do you get this idea that we really need it now? Why
you're
now?
too
Why not
intellectual about
before?
this.
Why not into the future?
It's too bad we didn't have it before, but we are where we are right now.
Yeah.
And
Maybe
we have
we
to
weren't ready.
trust that life has brought us what we need at the exactly perfect time.
Yeah, maybe we're ready now. Maybe we hadn't grown up enough.
What do you think?
I
Shahmeen?
feel like there's a shift that's happening in our collective consciousness, and I do think that people are more willing. Now, just as a small micro example in my own, slice of the pie per se, a year ago I did a presentation at a workshop of people who work in OD development, similar field as me, and I invited them to look at their inner operating system and to look at the beliefs and the stories that they were telling themselves. And when I did that, there was a lot of resistance, and I realized I'd gone a little bit too far along too quickly. In one half day with this group, it was too early in the process. 2 weeks ago, I did 2 engagements in the same week, both of which were my first engagement with this group of people. And both groups wanted to go there right away. They were just dying to go and look inside. And I was saying, well, let's just take this one step at a time here. But there seems to be a hunger for this deeper conversation that people want to be in with themselves. And when I invite them into it, they're very open now to looking there.
It's really nice that it's happening in the workplace, because you wouldn't think it would be happening there, of all places, because that's where ego is really, really solid, and
Yes.
that whole, you have your guard up. So if you can get through to people in the workplace, that would spill over to the personal life too, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. We're whole people, whether
Yeah.
we're at home or at work, and we might try and partition ourselves or leave a part of us in the parking lot when we get to work, but we are always broadcasting all of who we are in every moment. And so the invitation from me to these leaders is to grow into a way of operating where you can create what matters with grace and ease and elegance, instead of all this effort and harshness and hard work that they've had to do.
So, Shahmeen, so right now, who's watching this, who should think about getting in touch with you?
Well, that's the interesting thing. When I did my coaching certification, they kept saying, you have to find a niche. And I was struggling for a niche. And what I've learned is that this is applicable to just about everyone. So it's sort of hard to say, I only work with these people or those people. So I talk about it this way. If you're noticing that life is sending you messages that something needs to be different, this might be the time to start to engage in this deeper conversation with me.
Now, is it individuals, or do you want to be working with like management teams of companies or organizations?
Most of my work is with leadership teams in corporations.
Now, how do they find you?
It's been a real word of mouth. I seem to have become well known in various communities, and so one thing leads to another. Yeah, it's been very organic the way that it's grown.
And that's how you know it's right.
Now, who's the right person in these teams that's going to identify, and because they're going to have to kind of champion bringing you on board?
Yes.
Is it the HR people, or who?
Generally, no. Generally, it's the leader. It's the leader of a department, the leader of an organization, or the leader of a project who says, I'm kind of tired of working this hard to make this happen. Why does it have to be so difficult? Maybe there's another way. And they're usually the ones who are invested in the need for the change. So it's normally with the leaders directly that I contract.
So would you say it's an opportunity to change the whole culture of an organization, starting with the top
Absolutely.
management team?
Absolutely, absolutely. And it doesn't, it's not always at the top. It could be a team somewhere in the middle, or it could be a cross-functional project team. I prefer to work with the leaders because, they set the tone and the cadence for the organization and for the culture. But we can start anywhere.
Because, a lot of times people in a corporate environment are just looking at the bottom line. They say, we don't have the budget for something like this.
Yeah.
Or maybe they're doing fine.
Yeah.
Maybe their bottom line is okay. Does the work that you do, translate into the bottom line for companies?
I think it does. I spent a year working with a corporate leadership team last year where I saw them every month. And at the beginning of the year, they were very resistant. They were very busy people, and they didn't want to spend half a day every month coming and sitting in a circle and talking about what they were feeling about, how things were at work, or even about their own leadership. And there was every check-in at the beginning would just be people complaining about how this was cutting into their work time. By the end of the year, they said to us, not only was this beneficial, it was crucial. If we hadn't done this, things would have stayed the way they were, and now we can really see what an impact this has had. Not only were they looking at their own leadership and growing up their own gifts individually, but they were talking about it collectively as well, because this organization invested in their entire, what they called leadership forum, to participate in these sessions. And so they began to have conversations with each other about what really matters.
Wow.
What is the vision? What is it that we're here to create together? Because you get on autopilot after a certain amount of
for
time
sure.
and lose touch with why you're here.
Yes,
So maybe that'll even spark somebody right now to think that maybe they shouldn't be complacent about their corporate culture anymore. So what's the first step if somebody wants to get...
The first step is to get in touch with me, and I can give you my website address, which is www.anjalileadership.com, and that's ANJALI leadership.com.
Okay, Anjali.
It's a beautiful name.
That's great.
Anjali.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, now what do you got there?
Oh, I have a little gift for you. It's I've been writing and taking pictures, and I'm neither trained in either of those fields, but I've taken some beautiful pictures recently, and this is one of them in a poem that came with it. So I was walking in the woods one day. It was at a time when I was in a great deal of turmoil in my personal life, and I saw these trees, and I took about 6 or 8 photographs that day, and when I went back home and looked at them, each of them had a poem that just sort of
Wrote
emerged.
themselves.
Yeah, wrote itself.
Yeah.
So this is one of them.
That's
Wow,
great.
that's beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
this really speaks to the messiness of our internal landscape. And even though we may be struggling with our gifts or with whatever we're struggling with, what I see is the beauty of that, the potential of that. And this poem really speaks to
Wow, that's beautiful.
You know, I would read the poem, but I think it needs the proper mood, the proper lighting, the
And the
proper
picture
imagery,
beside it.
and maybe the proper music to
Yes.
do it justice.
Yes.
So,
It's
beautiful.
Maybe I'll have to come back
You know
and
what?
do that.
Okay.
Or
Yeah.
put it on your website.
Yes.
or maybe we'll do something in editing.
Oh,
All
maybe
right.
we can- yeah.
Okay.
But anyways,
idea.
it's been great to have you here, Shahmeen.
Thank you for
and,
sharing.
Thank you. It's
yeah,
been wonderful
thanks
to be
for
here.
coming
Sounds
in.
amazing.
So AnjaliLeadership.com.
That's correct.
That's the first stop. and
That's
we'll,
the first
we'll
step.
put that up in the
Yeah.
credits. So thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so we are going to take a little break. Come back with Carmelita Blonde from Divine Decadence
I feel more
Originals.
calm after this, you know? I feel so
Well, we're going to get a
calm.
little uncalm right now because we're going to play one of those hip hop tunes.
Oh, now I'm going to get back up again. It's a roller coaster
Yeah.
today.
So let's play the Summer in the City because it is summer, even though it's only
Yes.
the first day of spring.
Yes, I'm hot.
So this is Abstract Art Form, and we'll be right back as Liquid Lunch continues.
I'm going to squirt you with some water. Here you go.